Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. It's your girl, Crystalcleareyes. How you guys doing out there? And I'm coming to you live and direct from New York City. As usual, I always start off my videos by letting everyone know that the reason that I wear a mask in my videos is because I have absolutely no desire to become famous. No desire whatsoever, you know. I'm simply here because I would like to start a conversation, get people thinking, get people talking and communicating about a lot of serious and important topics that are affecting all of our lives right now, you know. So, with that being said, let's just jump right on into it. As usual, you guys know how I do. So, what I want to talk about today, I want to talk about this very disturbing trend and behavior pattern that I've noticed going on in society, in our government, um, and even in, families, communities at large. You know, One thing that I noticed is that there's a very disturbing trend and a very disturbing behavior pattern unfolding. That these days it seems like everybody wants to be a victim. Everybody wants to be a victim. Everybody has an axe to grind. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I've been victimized myself. This is New York City. I know what that's like. I've been victimized in the city by strangers. I've been victimized in my family by my own close family members. You know, I've experienced a lot of tragedy and suffering in my life, but I don't continue to define myself as a victim. Okay? Now, let me say what I mean when I say that. Let me give some examples for clarity. I grew up in a very toxic and abusive family, dysfunctional family. A lot of talent, but also a lot of tragedy and a lot of drama too. I was sexually abused from the age of 6.5 to 16 by 8 different male family members. They may have tried to forget, but I've never forgotten. I know exactly who they are and exactly what they did to me. Starting at age 6.5 by my own grandfather, and then a long succession of other family members who sexually abused me. My sister's father, my mother's other boyfriend, 3 or 4 of my male cousins, because I had a lot of male cousins growing up, very few female cousins. And my godfather, one of my cousin's fathers, yeah, the cousin who abused me, then his father also sexually abused me later. I know what it is to have been victimized. I was sexually abused as a child. I was physically abused, in my childhood. I know what it is like to be a victim. I do understand, you know. But what is so troubling is that people want to stay permanent victims. I call it permanent victim status, And everywhere you look, you see people who want to be victims all the time. In every situation, they want to find a way to portray themselves as victims, you know. And it's very troubling and it's very disturbing. Because, see, I understand people are victimized at times. And there are a lot of people who have suffered a lot of tragedies that I've never experienced and that I understand and believe that they've suffered. But make no mistake about it. At a certain point in your life, you have to stop being a victim of life, of people, of circumstances, and start becoming a survivor of those things. I consider myself a survivor, not a permanent victim, And then at a certain point, you go from being a survivor and just surviving all the bad things you've experienced to actually living life and enjoying life, you know? Instead of going through this toxic cycle, this endless toxic cycle of I've been victimized, people have done these things to me, and I'm a victim and I have no personal responsibility for how my life goes because I'm constantly being victimized by other people. I know people like that. I know people close to me, people I've known for many, many years, even decades, who consider themselves like these permanent victims. They never seem to take any personal responsibility for anything that's going on in their life. And don't get me wrong, sometimes people are victims of other people's bad behavior and bad choices. But at some point, as you grow up, you're not a kid anymore. You have to take your own personal responsibility and say, yeah, I was victimized in my life. Bad things did happen to me, as I was growing up or in my marriage or in my family or whatever the case may be, you know. But now I'm grown, you know. I'm taking charge. I'm taking responsibility for my own life. And I'm going to make sure these things don't happen to me again. Or I'm going to make sure they don't happen to my loved ones. Or, whatever the case may be. But to stay a permanent victim and everywhere you go and in every situation, no matter what happens in your life, the whole narrative is the same thing over and over again, this toxic behavior pattern. I'm a victim, I'm being victimized. You're victimizing me, he victimized me, she victimized me, that one. Listen, I've been there. But I also know at some point you must take responsibility for yourself and for your life. Otherwise, you'll be stuck in that same negative behavior pattern, not growing, not learning your life lesson, not taking charge, not taking responsibility, not making better choices, better decisions, not learning, oh, these are red flag behaviors. When I see these behaviors in people or things like that, let me run. Let me get away from these people, Not learning any life lessons. It's ridiculous. I understand what it is to be a victim, but I also understand what it is to be a survivor. And I'd much rather be a survivor than walk around calling myself a permanent victim, as though I have absolutely no choice in what happens in my life, no responsibility. Because a lot of times when we look back, that's what we see. That somewhere along the way, we may have played a role in some of our victimization. Now, let's get it clear. If you're a child, you're likely being victimized. Period. And likely there's no role you played in it. Period. But once you reach adulthood, you got to look at yourself and you got to say, hey, what am I doing? What is going on here that maybe I'm playing a role in what's happening in my life? Maybe I'm making a bad decision or I'm doing something, making the same negative behavior patterns over and over again. And that's why I'm experiencing this bad stuff. It's stuff to think about.